Hello. So I'm a minute late. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Tonight, I'm going to talk to you about how consistency can develop discipline. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm going to roll my intro. Sorry, got to find it. And I'll be right back. Boom! Let's do this. All right, did you see all those pictures on there? What? Isn't that cool? This is my first 12 days. Today is day 13. This will be an interesting podcast tonight because normally Pam's always on here, so I at least have one person who's at least starting the conversation and whatnot, but it is what it is. Most people record these and then edit them. I do it live on Facebook and then upload it to YouTube. So, hey, I got a haircut today. I talked about this earlier, and it's a lot shorter. It was really dry, and I had to get bangs because they were really dry. So, the perils. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about, let me find my banner. I don't have a lot of things. Like, it's crazy how busy you get and whatnot. Consistency builds discipline. What does that mean? Excuse me. What? Okay. Give me a second here. Okay. So we're talking about, okay. So when you think about consistency, a lot of the times it causes burnout. So now I'm going to I'm going to talk about a couple of articles. One is this one, and consistency without burnout, why hustling harder isn't the answer, which is like that thing I talked about with like 75 hard and whatnot. And then this one actually is by the 75 hard guy, but he has some interesting ideas, and I don't know, you tell me, it kind of contradicts like his whole philosophy on stuff. Okay. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. So this is the thing, is like, if you stick around, if you want to know how consistency builds discipline, because I think these are things that we're all like kind of struggling with a lot. And by the way, I also two necklaces that I really liked, and I don't really lose things. So I don't know if it's the fairy folk, the fae, that are stealing my stuff just to irritate me. But here we go. So many people have so many opinions, right? So you have to be disciplined, you have to be consistent, you have to be blah, blah, blah. But what about burnout? How do you stop burnout, right? Like, I know we all get there, right? So burnout isn't caused by consistency, at least in my mind, okay? It happens when we keep showing up in ways that don't actually fit our lives, right? So, for example, in my mind, what I would say is, so when we talk about resolutions, or this 90-day thing for me, right? If doing a video a day was something I didn't want to do, that was hard for me, that was like made me more anxious or angry or frustrated, then that's something I wouldn't pick. I do like doing videos. I do need to be more consistent. So I picked it. So don't pick something, for instance, I want to get healthier, so I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. Do most people go 5 days a week? No, not unless you're doing some kind of crazy ass bodybuilding or, whatever. So consistency happens when we keep showing up in ways that actually fit our lives, right? So that's a perspective that most people don't talk about, right? Because a ton of us feel that way. So consistency is not a universal fix, but you can consistently do things in the wrong way. They can go nowhere, you can grind, and you can still crash. So just being consistent at something isn't enough. You have to be consistent at the right things. And I know that sounds crazy but we're going to talk about that a little bit. Okay. And I've had this is day 13. I look back on my 12 days, this that I showed you here. You know what? I have built a bigger following. I've had more comments. I've had more DMs. I've had a more positive outlook on things, mostly because I struggle with a lot of things, and that's something we'll talk about later. But yeah, I mean, if you did things consistently the wrong way, you go nowhere. You can grind and still crash. So this hustle culture thing was like, you know, this is the interesting thing in this article right here. This is the consistency. Oh, hang on, I gotta bring it up. The consistency is key, which is the 75 hard guy, Andy Frisella. Okay, in this article, he talks about it's just funny to me because he did 75 hard, but he states that people are consistent at the wrong habits all the time, like Netflix, avoidance, taking shortcuts, that kind of thing, right? It doesn't get you closer to your goals, no matter how reliable that is. And so that's true, right? So another perspective I found pushes on the idea you need to work harder. Sorry, I just ran into my thing. Harder often equals burnout, not achievement. So I just find that really funny that the 75 hard guy talked about this, because in his model, if you falter with just one thing, and there's like it's a pretty extensive thing. It is okay. So if you break it down, okay, I got to do 2 workouts a day. Fine. One has to be outside. Fine. I have to read a certain amount a day. I have to follow a specific diet. Fine. All these things separately are fine, but together, especially if you haven't been a person who has, I mean, it sounds like I'm bashing 75 hard, but I mean, it's just using it as an example. So altogether, it's very hard to achieve. Okay. It doesn't get you closer to your goals. So the question becomes, what kind of consistency are we really trying to build? And we don't want to feel bad about ourselves and what we're doing, right? So here's the trap. When people get consistency wrong, we confuse consistency with rigidity. We assume that more effort automatically equals better results. And we turn showing up into a test of worth instead of practice. So have you ever heard that phrase, practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent? So this is part of the thing that they're talking about with that, right? So I'll get into this in a minute, but to be consistent with things that make sense for you, because it either leads to burnout or it makes consistency feel impossible, okay? Because the problem is not consistency itself, it's how we define it. Because we expect it to be unchanging, we expect effort to carry us instead of alignment, and we let it turn into pressure instead of trust. So interestingly enough, the author of 75 Hard points out that consistency in the wrong habits keeps people stuck. Doing the same ineffective stuff over and over rarely changes outcomes. That's that phrase that I actually get sick of. It's that, what's the definition of insanity? You know, doing something, what is it, over and over in the same way and expecting different results. But the harder equals better notion is the belief that meets exhaustion, not progress. Okay. So here's the pivot. Consistency is not the enemy of burnout. Mindless repetition is, if that makes sense. So intentional consistency means showing up in ways that actually fit your real life. Oh, woo, let's celebrate. I always forget that does that. Aligning what you do with what matters most, and ditching the idea that more effort always equals a better outcome, because it doesn't. I mean, you can make more effort at, I'm just trying to think of something doing the wrong way. It's not going to help you. Consistency stops working when we turn it into rigidity. We measure it by effort and attach our worth to it. So that's why I'm very confused by the 75 hard thing, because he's got this duality in there. because he says practicing something the wrong way is the wrong type of consistency. But also it's this whole hustle culture. Like, so in my mind, okay, so this is me. In my mind, in order to be consistent, it has to be something that I can actually follow through on and feel good about and actually achieve, because otherwise I'm going to feel like a failure. And to do something and then there's Pam. Pam, hey, you're my sole person who keeps my comments alive, my friend. Yeah, not a fan of 75 hard. And I know, like, okay, so I looked at this, and so what I talked about earlier, does have a good point, because if you are consistent with the wrong things, it's going to be bring the wrong things like to you, like your consistency, you know, your let's see, I gotta find it. What type of consistency are we trying to build? Because if we do something that doesn't fit our lives, it's not going to aid in our progress. Okay. So this other article here, I'm going to bring this up. Hang on one second. I know this is, I swear to God, I need like a behind the scenes person. So it's called Burnout, Consistency Without Burnout. And it says why hustling harder isn't the answer. Well, now, isn't that interesting? So it's not like I delve into 72 articles or 75 articles. Looking this up, but it talks about consistency without burnout. So consistency is not overexertion. It's knowing what matters, focusing there, and then moving on with no guilt. Okay. So, you know, if the 75 hard thing is very hard to follow, I mean, for most people. Okay. So it's a lot of things to do at once. So that's like saying, I'm going to work out 5 days a week. I'm going to work out 7 days a week. Pick 2 days, pick 3 days, pick what works for you. Pick something. So what we have to do is like figure out who we are and what our limitations are and what we can do in order to feel successful. Okay. Because do you have to stop there? No. So if you're a person that says, hey, I'm going to work out 2 times a week, and you do that for 90 days, let's say, because this is a whole 90-day thing for me, then the next 90 days, now I'm going to work out 3 times a week, you know? Oh, hey, it's my new friend. Girl, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you, baby. Thank you for joining. I always lose my train of thought then. So, I mean, are you following what I'm saying? So it's talking about, it's a huge relief for people who feel like they're being beaten up by their own to-do lists instead of being lifted by them. So if you're going to be somebody who you want to change, you want to be better, you want to have these goals, don't make it so hard that you're beating yourself up when you don't meet these expectations. Don't make it so easy that it's like not a challenge, but don't make it so hard, right? I started going to the gym before New Year's. Good job, girl. And that's the thing I talked about a little bit before then. You don't have to wait for New Year's. I did decide to wait for my 90-day thing because it's just going to be a cohesive like things. I'm going to do a new 90-day thing every 90 days. Kathy says, I go to EOS. Okay, yeah. I absolutely love the stuff there. Well, which one do you go to? Because I live downtown. I used to go to EOS. Here's what's funny. Now, I had a mental block about this, to be honest with you. I work out at the Y, and I was going to a strongman gym, and I was training for strongman. I did all the things. I pulled a 21-ton truck in Norway. Awesome. Did some other things. And then I just couldn't keep up because, you know, the market's been weird as a real estate agent. And so, you know, the cost and whatnot. And so I started going to the Y, and I only go to the Y because I don't want to be bothered by people. I know that seems crazy because I do talk to people. But there's like a gym in the basement for all the people with the free weights and stuff. And then there's other stuff. And I just like to go and get my shiz done. And it's right here. It's actually way more expensive than EOS, but I like it. So pick what works for you. Okay, she says, I go to the one at 43rd in Glendale. Girl, I'll go with you sometime. If you want to take me, that'd be great. My ass is never going to pull it. Well, I mean, not many people will, right? Like, but I'll go with you sometime if you want to. That would be fun. I know that EOS gets crazy sometimes with like, ooh, somebody's training you, but I would love to do that. That would be fun. Okay, well, I'll bring you to the Y, okay? And then you can bring me to EOS. Let's do that. All right. I love that, Kathy. Thank you. So let's talk about discipline for a second. So there's a lot of advice out there that says you need discipline first to be consistent, but really it's backwards because consistency builds discipline. When You show up in ways that fits your life. Oh God, there we go again. All right, let's just have a celebration here. And you remove debate about should I or shouldn't I, and then discipline becomes natural instead of strained. No, I mean, I had to put this up here. Thank you, Kathy. She says I'm a badass. Back at you. No, I met Kathy by chance. This is a really cool story. Well, a friend of ours was in the hospital, and we just met, and like she, very nice person, and so now we're friends. I mean, how great is that? Okay, so I'm going to go back to this. Okay, again, the guy who wrote 75 Hard, Frisella's writing reflects this: consistency builds discipline, which is weird, right? You can be consistent and still go nowhere if the actions don't serve your goals. So discipline is really about consistency, but it has to be the right type of consistency. So if you put it another way, stop fighting yourself, and that's when discipline arrives. Is this making sense? I hope it does, because this is something, as a lifelong athlete, as someone who has accomplished a bunch of things, especially in athletics, this really resonates with me. It's okay if I push myself, if I know what my limitations are. So even if someone says you suck and you're not going to make this, I'm like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong, and I'm going to push myself to those limits, right? It's you can only push yourself as far as you know that you can push yourself, right? So I used to tell my students, you can do anything. You can do anything you put your mind to. I mean, except you can't fly without machinery. Like, you can't be that person. Do you know what I mean? But you can do anything that you put your mind to. You have to know your own limits. Kathy says, oh, you're so lovable. It's easy to become friends with you and you live in the neighborhood I used to own. I know. I forgot about that. I forgot where you live. I don't think you're that far. So let's get together, girl. Right? Okay. So I'm going to go back to that second article. The person who wrote this had written about a coach that talked about a jam-packed week that used to stress her out. And now she plans around realities instead of against them. She doesn't burn herself trying to be a superhuman. She creates systems that work with her schedule. And so that's the crux of intentional consistency. So that's the thing, intentional consistency. So you choose the rhythm that fits you, not the rhythms that exhaust you. Okay? So I'll give you an example. So I made a commitment to make it 3 days a week to the gym. And you would think somebody who is a lifelong athlete and doing all the things and doing, whatever, sure, that's easy, but it's not. Things get in the way. My parents are here. I've got a lot of things. Like, at some point I'm going to talk about that because it's not easy. But I made the commitment, and I made enough of a commitment to say to myself, I got to make it 3 days a week, no matter what. So if I don't make it in the morning, which is my best time to go because then I have the rest of the day free. If I don't, I'm going to make sure I go in the afternoon, which I got to be honest with you, since the beginning of the year, I've been going in the afternoon. If I go on a Monday and I don't make Wednesday, then I'm going to go Thursday and Saturday, which I've done twice. And what is this, the third week? So that's what I've done. I don't want to go on a Saturday. I don't want to go on it, but I'm doing it. I'm getting it done. So even though I'm a person who does do this a lot, I know my reality is right now, I can only commit to 3 days a week. I'm going to start putting throwing days in there, and that's going to be another day. So I have to know my own limitations. I have to set my expectations and my aspirations to help myself achieve my goals and not burn myself out. And in that respect, consistency builds discipline, because then you feel good about yourself, right? So I hope this makes sense. Okay. So let me ask you, what can you actually do this week if you wanted consistency without burnout? What is something you can do? Okay. Pick one shift. So instead of saying, can I do this every day forever? Ask instead, what is the smallest version of this that still moves the needle? Because the goal is it's not volume, it's movement. It's a movement. Okay, so like my dad and I used to talk about this all the time. So you buy a house with no landscaping or whatever, or maybe you have grass, and you're like, I just really want trees, but I don't want to plant trees because they take so long to grow. But if you never plant them, you're never going to have them. So make your goals realistic, and you're going to realize that by making these small milestones, you're going to be able to reach those bigger milestones, right? Smaller repeated actions that fit where you actually live build trust with yourself. And then once trust is built, discipline shows up. It just shows up. It's not like a drill sergeant, like, yes, sir. It's like a dependable friend. Okay. So remember, burnout isn't caused by consistency. There we go again. It happens when we keep showing up in ways that don't actually fit our lives. Woo, it's a celebration. When you shape your consistency around your real world, not some ideal world, not some idea. Sorry, 75 hard. Maybe they're gonna come after me, but like not after some guy that says you got to do this, and this, or you're a failure. And if you make one mistake, you got to go back to ground zero. I literally had a broker, like one of my brokerages, and yes, we tend to move around, who made it 74 days, had put himself into ketogenic diabetes on day 74, and considered it a failure. I'm not okay with that. We all have different circumstances. We got to know our limitations, and we also have to give ourselves a little bit of grace, you know? So on these, like the first 12 days, I've learned it's pretty cool. Think about, okay, hang on a sec. When you shape your consistency around your real world, not some ideal world, you build discipline and you avoid burnout. So stay curious about how you show up, not just that you do. Okay. So that was my most unexpected thing, right? Because I've had, okay, good. Kathy's saying something else. Oh my God, nobody should do anything based on what a man tells them in any way, shape, or form, from business, health, fitness, etc. Do it for yourself. Well, it's not just that, Kathy, because I've had male coaches and they've been great for, volleyball and like whatever, but there's no one size fits all diet. There's no one size fits all workout regime. I mean, there's so many different things out there. I think the thing that I'm really trying to put forth is that we have to take a look at ourselves, okay? And it depends on where you are in your journey. So somebody who's never worked out before, no, they're not going to pull a 21,000 ton truck in 6 months, but you sure can work out 2 times a week, and you can make some improvements. So in these 12 days, and this is going to sound crazy to you because, I'm a person that tries a lot of things. And so I'm going to be asking you what I should do for my next 90 days, because I think it's going to be some kind of challenge. It's going to be fun, like riding a skateboard. But my friend Pam said, please don't ride a skateboard. I don't want to see you crack your head open. But I mean, something that I've never done. Right. So, and then I lost my train of thought. Dang it. Okay. I'm basically saying, I think, just like okay. So there's nothing wrong with setting goals. So here's my challenge. Set a goal to be consistent in something, and it doesn't have to be beyond your normal scope of what you do. So maybe you do work out 3 times a week, but maybe you want to step it up a notch. Maybe you want to say, I want to work out 4 times a week, or maybe I want to add cardio every day, or I want to add some kind of, I don't want to say diet, but like way of eating, or I want to give up soda. It makes me mad because guys give up soda and they'll lose 20 pounds in a month, So maybe it's just something small like that. It doesn't have to be like this grandiose thing. Okay, so Kathy says, I need to see that video pulling. Okay, yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you, my friend. Thank you. So here's my final thoughts. Okay, I've gone a lot longer than I thought I would. Here's my final thoughts. And Kathy, thank you. You've kept me afloat today, because Pam is usually the girl that comes on Tuesdays and keeps me afloat, and she's doing something cool. I'm not going to share it because she's stepping outside of her box, and she is going to be consistent with something different. And it's very fun. So I'm going to let her share that with you. Okay, so here's the deal. Most people aren't struggling with consistency. They're consistent at the wrong things, which I said came from the 75 hard guy, which is strange. Harder doesn't equal better. Effort without intention equals burnout. So like I said, If you're like, I'm going to work out 4 days a week, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, and you don't make it, do you know what I mean? You have to know what your limitations are, but you also have to make realistic expectations. And then lastly, discipline doesn't enter through force. It enters through repetition that actually fits you. Okay. So consistency develops discipline, but you have to make sure that you are focusing on the right type of consistency. Okay. I know. I hope it doesn't sound like I talked in circles tonight. So here's the deal, guys. Okay. Sit Squatch. He loves you. I'm going to put this on the YouTube. So like and subscribe because it's going to make Sit Squatch and his tiny hiney very happy. I'll have to change that verbiage there because he says the journey begins with you. So be good to yourself. He's a pretty wise little fella. Oh, I got another comment, which I love. So Kathy says, I'm sorry, I'm chatting up with you. No, I love it. Actually, I love it. This is usually what Pam does, honestly. She comes on. You have to meet my friend Pam. She's amazing. And this is I live for this. So please, all the comments. If you stayed on here for 3 hours, I would do it. I mean, everybody else would probably be like, oh my God. But thank you. I actually really, 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 really thank you for this. And then also, guys, this is me, the Horgan. I love you. I'll see you next week. Thanks for sticking it out. Kathy, thank you so much. Pam, I know you were on at the beginning, but I can't share what she's doing because that's her little journey to share. I will see you guys next week, okay? Hey, if you have any ideas, by the way, if you want to drop in the comments what you're working on, I would love to know what you're working on. If I could support you, I will totally support you. And also, if you have something that you would like me to talk about, please also drop that in the comments because I'm glad to do new fun things, especially if it's a challenge on me looking stuff up. So Kathy says, good night, my friend. Good night. I will see you later. Bye, everybody.